Hello and welcome back to the Real Estate RoundUp podcast. I'm your host, Kobe Zinn, and I'm joined here as always by my co-hosts, Andres Martinez and Tony Flores. How you guys doing?
Doing
Awesome. How are you
great.
doing?
Howdy.
Awesome, man. So super excited for today's episode. We're going to be keeping it a little bit shorter today because we are talking about a very specific subject and very specific topic. But I think it's going to be very valuable for a very specific subsector of the marketplace out there. And that is how your real estate agent can help you stop or delay a foreclosure situation. And what are the benefits of actually helping you delay and stop a foreclosure situation? We understand that a lot of people out there might be going through a tough situation with this, and we want to be able to provide as much value and as much information on this subject and topic as possible. So we're going to dig right into this. So the first question that I have for you guys is, what are the benefits of actually stopping a foreclosure versus just simply being foreclosed on? I think a lot of people are going to have that question if they're going through this process. And that is, what are the actual benefits of me actually doing this or going through a process of trying to stop the foreclosure versus just getting foreclosed on and moving on with the property? So we'll start with you, Tony, and then we'll go to you, Andres.
Yeah. So the main thing with this topic, and we just wanted to bring it up, is a foreclosure is, of course, people hear the name, the word foreclosure, and it's brings some negative connotation to it. At the end of the day, it is a legal procedure. It's a legal maneuver to force the hand of the borrower to pay the bank. Now, there's multiple ways to stop the foreclosure. There's multiple ways to possibly, delay the foreclosure. My intention here is not to provide legal advice. Everyone's situation is different. Every borrower and their relationship with the bank, they will have different instances. So don't want to provide legal advice to anybody by any means. I'll just kind of mention and talk about some of the things that I've been able to do to help people that were on the path of a foreclosure. So, just on kind of the onset, why is it important to stop foreclosure? Well, you know probably that when you fill out credit applications, it'll ask you if you've ever had any bankruptcies, if you have ever had any foreclosures, repossessions, things like that. So those really the foreclosure and bankruptcy. Those are the reason why they ask that on just about every credit application is because those are the ones that are most damaging to someone's credit. And when it's most damaging, what does that mean to you? It means that it's going to affect you and your buying power, your purchasing power. Not only can it stop it from buying certain things, but it also, if you're able to buy them, it's going to make them more expensive. It's like going, essentially, having to get, different things instead of being able to have a source of getting a loan. People resort to getting a payday loan or getting you know, a loan where they give you money and they'll keep your title like a title loan. So that's kind of like the far end of like where that could lead you. Of course, being out of the home is a bad thing. We have sheriff's office coming in, knocking down the door as far as making sure everyone's out. It's just a very uncomfortable thing to be part of. Name gets put on public record. All kinds of things happen that have lots of negative connotations. So, being able to get it from the path to foreclosure to pulling that foreclosure off and having different methods of response to a notice of foreclosure is super important to get with somebody that's helped people with foreclosures before, helped them in a positive way, and definitely want to stop that from happening.
Yeah, so that's actually really good comparison of what it means to go through that process, right? Because I think a lot of people, they may or may not know that information, but you having actually helped people through this before, you're able to provide something like that. So, same question for you, Andres. What would you say are some of the benefits of not going through that and actually solving the problem of not going through a foreclosure?
I think the benefits would be Just as far as what you're going to be able to purchase in the future, uh, credit is kind of like it's valued as a trustworthy system. So if all your bills are paid and everything's current, then banks, if you have meet their criteria, they're able to lend. If there's a blemish on your credit report, then it affects what you'll be able to buy. I always think that the benefit of reaching out to a realtor is being able to identify um, how they can help you, and they're able to see the best resource. And with permission, they're able to reach out to the bank and see what's the best recourse to stop that from happening.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Making sure reaching out to somebody who has the experience, right? Like we were just talking about, of helping somebody solve this problem in the past. So another question I think a lot of people are going to have is, understanding when to actually start the process of potentially solving this issue, right? Understanding kind of the timeline of, is it better or is there any merit in stopping the foreclosure process earlier rather than later? Again, we'll go to you, Tony. I know you have quite a bit of experience helping certain people with this. So, from your experience, does it make it easier for somebody to approach this situation more actively earlier rather than kind of later in the process?
Yeah, for sure. Getting in front of it essentially at the beginning of it is super helpful. And unfortunately, what I see is, by the time somebody's ready to reach out to someone like me, is sometimes unfortunately, it does get at a certain point where it's too late. So to speak, they've kicked the can down the road so long, and they've got to a point where they're 2 or 3 days before the foreclosure, and now they're trying to come up with some answers and some help. That's not the time you want to be throwing the lifeline. You want to get in front of the issue. What I'm able to do is just look at where someone's at in the process. Ideally, it's a couple of weeks before anything is scheduled. Even before that is best, because we need to see what are all the options. It's like if you go to a restaurant, you have all these options to choose from. You're happy with that. But if you only have one option and it's you know something you don't like, something you can hardly swallow, are you going to be okay with that? No. So you want to have as many options as possible. The main thing is, yeah, just getting on top of it early. Communication is super important. Communicating with all parties, documenting all those conversations. When I say documenting, asking names, verifying phone numbers, getting emails, tracking all that stuff. And all the stuff is super important, but it's only important if you have a process to get it stopped and get another resolution for the foreclosure. So yeah, definitely sooner rather than later.
Right. Taking an active approach, right? Like you say, getting in front of it in the foreclosure process is very important, right? Because you don't want to get to that point where, like you were mentioning, where it's too late or you only have one option and it's not something that you're really fond of. So again, same question for you, Andres. From just what you've seen and what you've been part of in the real estate industry, right? Getting in front of the issue earlier rather than later. What are some of the merits that you have found in that?
I think my recommendation would be to the first time you know that there's an issue there and there could be a possibility of going down the lane of foreclosure is I would reach out uh, to a real estate agent. Why would I reach out to a real estate agent? Because a real estate agent, you could be sitting on equity. You could have had this property for an extensive time, or as we know, property values skyrocketed in here recently.
Mhm.
So there might be some positive equity there. Um, Being able to use that positive equity either by listing and comparing um, to get this house sold prior to being a foreclosure will possibly save you a hit from your credit. Second of all, stress, right? You could be stressed and looking for solutions, and you could be living in the solution. That property might have value, and um, that value in that property could possibly save you from having a bad credit or from just being stressed out. That equity could possibly buy you a second opportunity and a refresh. So reaching out to a real estate agent just to know how much equity you got in the property, how much your house compares to other houses on the market, and if there's a solution that they can help you with. I think that would be um, the first thing I would do if I was facing a foreclosure.
Right, absolutely. That's actually pretty good because that's potential. You mentioned like a potential way to actually solve that problem, right? And actually get in front of it actively. And I think that's a pretty good point that you brought up because really last question I think a lot of people are going to have, and we'll just wrap up with this, and that is basically what are some ways that you have either helped people with the foreclosure process in the past, or what are some things that you are actually able to do as far as providing a solution for people, so that way they have a good idea of what to expect and have a good idea of a realistic expectation of what it is that they can do or not do when they are working with an agent. So again, we'll start with you, Tony, and then we'll wrap up with you, Andres.
Yeah. When someone's faced with the possibility of a foreclosure, the a super important thing to do is really vet the person that you want to get this problem solved with. Ask them about their experience. Ask them how many different options they can provide to you before committing necessarily to one agent. Because there's people that have it's kind of like that the adage, if you only have a hammer, um, then everything looks like a nail. So when you're dealing with a legal matter and an issue that has a determined timeline on it, if you don't match yourself up with the right solution, the right agent or right solution, unfortunately, the consequences of that could mean that legal procedure, that trigger of the foreclosure could happen. And make sure you're vetting the people that you're working with. Ask for people that they've worked with, references. Ask how many solutions you think you provide for me. Can you lay it out and just speak to it? So different ways I've helped people. Andres mentioned equity. That's a great way to be able to possibly sell the house. The house could be listed possibly on the market. It could be possibly done through a cash transaction. I have a platform and I have a buyers list of a lot of cash buyers that can make offers and close in a very short timeline. At the end of the day, the banks don't they want to avoid, believe it or not, banks want to avoid foreclosures. They don't want to proceed through them, but they have no other option. In the absence of the another option, the bank will foreclose. So the main thing is we have to get on top of it. We have to tell them, hey, we have other options, and we don't. Our client here has a solution for you through, like, say, for instance, my help. I've helped people with get it listed on market at a competitive price. It's going to get it sold quickly. I've been able to accomplish short sales, and short sales means there's less equity in the home. So just because someone doesn't have equity or they buy it 1 year or 2 years ago, I even had someone that had bought it 6 months ago. They're already in foreclosure. Different things like that. So when some people think they don't have, they might be aware that they don't have equity. There's a solution for that. It could be, just doing a purchase or selling to an investor that has a solution. So multiple different ways. It just depends on every situation. Again, is different. So if someone has a problem that needs a solution, I've got probably about 8 different ways to avoid the foreclosure, actually more than 8 different ways. So I can certainly help people, and it may may end up that they actually don't have to sell the house after all. It might be that they can stay in it. Just depends on a lot of different factors. So we can talk about that depending on what's available at that time, and love to have a conversation with anyone going through the process and getting notification of pending foreclosure sooner rather than later.
Right. Absolutely. So again, same question for you, Andres. If a client were to reach out or somebody who is going through the process or about to go through the process of foreclosure reaches out to you, what are some things that they can expect as far as the different ways you can help them solve that problem?
Just making sure that the resource or the real estate agent you use is like well versed in the subject of foreclosure, and then being able to evaluate case by case what the client's needs are and have sufficient resources. If you're able to list the property, how soon do you think you can list it? Can you beat the time that the foreclosure is? Can you get the foreclosure extended? Um, Also, um, do you have resources of cash buyers, investors, someone that can make the deal go a little bit smoother and is able to communicate to the bank, like, I have an option here. I just need a little bit extended time uh, and get the deal done to try to help the client with that foreclosure. And my recommendation as a real estate agent is if there is a foreclosure that is kind of outside of your expertise, don't be afraid to refer it out. I would refer something out if I couldn't do it. I would refer something out to Tony. I know Tony's a very experienced in it. I know he does it well. That's probably one of the biggest recommendations. You're trying to help somebody avoid foreclosure, right? So if you're not the right resource, and like I said, you got to evaluate how in depth uh, this situation is. If you're able to do it, move forward. But don't be afraid if it's something that needs a little bit more versed agent. I wouldn't think twice about referring something to Tony.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a really good point as well, right? You're making sure that you got to be able to help the client in the best way possible. And if you're not able to do it, right, there's always going to be people out there who do know how to do it. So and hopefully we provided a good resource here today for anybody listening who is either have a has a client going through this or potentially having a client going through this, or if you're watching this and listening to this and you're going through a similar situation as well, maybe pending foreclosure. Again, if you want to reach out to somebody to potentially be able to help you and provide you with some solutions, make sure to look at the description below this video where you'll be able to reach out directly to Andres or Tony, and they will be able to help you or refer you to somebody who is a little bit more well versed in your specific situation as well to make sure that you get out of this situation intact and with the best and best solution possible as well. So thank you guys for sharing your value and your knowledge today. Appreciate you guys and appreciate you for tuning in. Hope you get your problem solved, and we will see you on the next show. Take care.
Take care.